Nammo Adidafa. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for a daily practice check-in for this Friday. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I'm aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. Reading from Ajahn Sucitto's book, Kamma and the End of Kamma, is beginning the section on proliferation and views. Making fixed judgments and adopting views about others obscures awareness of how unique everyone's kamma is, and how we all have to develop in ways that works for us. Views give rise to mental kamma, and mental kamma, for good or bad, is no small matter. Because if we don't consciously handle mental kamma, it occurs by default, and it takes its cues from the mental tendency that is dominant at the time. The tendency of ill will could grab the focus so that we become self-righteous judges, that she doesn't help very much, that so-and-so is always nodding when he sits. Lingering in what we dislike and proliferating on that tendency fixes a person as being one or two traits, heaps up suffering in our own minds. And that results in a loss of heart that seriously shuts down our ability to practice. So there's a need for vigilance around the tendency to form views and proliferate, papancha. This tendency stems from the psychological thirst, tanha, which wants to solidify the mind into self, oneself and other people. That is, we conceive ourselves to be some quality or state, and we do the same to others. Then we either assume we're better, worse, or the same as them. The reference is skewed. A quality is not a person. Qualities, good or bad, depend on kamma, and they can change. But because of the psychological thirst to form a continuing solid being, the mind formulates myself, yourself, and those others out of the flow of changing energies, behavior, and appearance. Any self-view needs some solid ground, some ideological viewpoint or fixed mood or context to stand on. I like to have things go my way because I know how to operate within those parameters. But following my way isn't going to get me out of my habits and my karmic program. So sharing a situation offers ways to look at the clinging to my way and to let go of it. However, that is a challenge. When our own individual routines and assumptions get checked, our sense of normality gets unsettled, In a silent retreat, and particularly in multinational communities like monasteries, we can't always know the details of what's going on, but the practice has to be one of holding core values, such as precepts and friendship in common, and developing trust. Because unless we trust in and always know the details of ourselves and others, we can't get past our attachments to certainty and being in control. Then we form views about others and how it should be, rather than investigate our assumptions and attitudes about what we think should be means. Then something in us contracts and clamps down, and as we start to hang on to my way, we feel alienated. And in that disorientation, the proliferation reflex gets going, with views coming thick and fast. Why is it like this? It should be like that. The end result is to lose our sense of flow and lose touch with Dhamma. We start judging others, and maybe judge and criticize ourselves for that too. The Kamma of proliferation starts transforming the present moment into bizarre pictures of how it always is, was, will, or should be. It's a program of emotional agitation, expectation, craving, frustration, and despair. And it moves us away from meeting, penetrating, and abandoning the clinging and suffering of the mind. The end point of the proliferation process is the fixed self-view, the major obstacle to awakening. This view doesn't always stand out. No one is going around saying or thinking, mine, me, this is myself. And in fact, it's often the opposite. As Buddhists, we think, this is not me or mine, but things should be this way. This is right. The way is, of course, the psychology, the system, the big picture. But self-view underpins that. This is because the way things should be, or seem to be, qualifies how I sense myself, as in touch with the truth, or on the winning team. If I uphold that way, which is the right way, then I become a valued member of the group. I even gain respect by sacrificing my apparent self for the sake of the ideals that I have projected onto the group. This projection gives the underlying me sense some values to feel solid about, and that can be useful, but we can get attached to that view, then, when other people have a different way, feel affronted. Again, there's a loss of balance, and with that, various forms of conceit rise up. Why doesn't everyone practice the way I do? How come she's so laid back and finding it all so easy? Practice is an intense thing, and life is suffering, damn it! Well, before judging who's right, and so on, we can learn how other people show us the comic tendency to project and proliferate. Part of the practice is therefore about seeing through the reactions, proliferations, and views that occur within the way we sense and measure, like or irritate, each other. We learn what we really need to address. Within the way I sense and assess you and myself are the messages of my Kamma. There may be insecurity, overestimation, or impatience. There may be idolizing or noble ideas of everyone living in harmony. But good or bad, whenever these turn into fixed views of my way and other people, there's going to be trouble. So we need to study this, to get to see how views get created, and how they shape further Kamma. It's important. Prejudice, conflict, schisms, and even wars get generated around it. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning, and I hope you have a very lovely weekend. We'll be back again on Monday.